I can't tell you how excited I am to see everybody here, except that with my iPad and I can't swipe the screen to make the pictures move in gallery view, I can only see a few at a time, but I know you're there. And I think the housekeeping situation has been taken care of. Just a reminder to use the chat and reminder that Karen's going to mute us because we have a very large group and background noises can be very distracting. As far as our speaker today, I really should just say, here's Joan, and let her go. But I am going to say a couple of words. Some of you may remember her if you were in Munger our freshman year, she was there. Or if you were in CAS on sophomore year, you probably remember her from there. But then she decided that she was going to go off and get married and raise a family. And so she left us. But she's had a very busy life. She has children, grandchildren. She has graduate degrees. And then something clicked fairly recently, and she decided to develop her photography. And those of us who are on the sister list have been tantalized by the beautiful things that she has been showing us. So, as I said, here's Joan, and I'll let her tell all about it. Okay, Joan, you're on.
Okay,
and I just want to, Joan, before you go on, I'm going to encourage people to go to speaker view if they want to see your screen larger, or if they want to continue seeing everybody else, they can stay in gallery. Either way. So it's their choice. Okay. Sorry about that. Right. Go ahead, Joan.
Also, I just wanted to say, reassure everybody, if there's some little glitch that comes up and you can't see something or you don't, I have a couple of very short videos that I'm going to show. If they don't come across, don't worry, I have links to everything and we're going to record this so you'll be able to see it.
There we go.
Is it showing now? Oh, good.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Anyway, this is the picture that reminded me of Lake Waban. And I remember that there was a Lake Waban, but I didn't go anywhere near it. I saw it from afar and thought that's pretty, and that was it. But now I'm always on water. If you, this is me today. When my kayak, I could have had a good time on Lake Waban if I had only known.
Yeah, that's good.
And here I am at Wellesley, and this is a group, probably mostly Munger from our freshman year. That's my roommate, Betsy, and I know Judy's on, Judy Towers meets Ma is on the call. Anyway, these are the people from our class. And just to give you an idea of what I want to cover today, is I'm going to tell a little bit of my story and sort of the hints and clues along the way that I'd wind up as a crazy woman with photography. And I'll show you some photographs, probably more than a few. Talk about the family life of birds and animals, which is so fascinating to me, and our kinship with them, and how our survival is linked to theirs. And finally, I'll wind up with Beth's wonderful poem that she reminded me of, Wendell Berry's The Peace of Wild Things. So here we go. Here's first a 30-second biography. Meg covered some of it, but I'll just race through this. A hint of what was to come. I loved my buffalo winters and summers on Lake Erie and Lake Temagami in Ontario, Canada. They set a scene in my mind and a love for the natural scene. At age 6, the Holocaust taught me about the fragility of life. Probably a lot of you had the same traumatic reaction to the Holocaust. It stuck with me my whole life, especially being a Jewish child at that time. Then Wellesley at 17. I'm one of the younger ones in the class. I don't turn 84 until next week. Anyway, I married at 19 and transferred to the University of Pennsylvania. 2 babies by 24. Husband graduates from medical school. 2 years in New Orleans. Husband internship. And in that 2 years, in New Orleans. I did lose a baby. That was the same year that the Kennedy baby died, Jackie's baby, and it was the same disease. That was another lesson in the fragility of life. I got pregnant again, had another baby in 2 years of Camp Lejeune and 2 years back in New Orleans, where I had to do something because it was the scene of a tragedy for me. And I went back to school and I got my master's. I asked my advisor for a recommendation because I wanted to apply to UCLA. And he said, "You'll never get a PhD. Why would you? Your husband's a doctor." Ah, that was interesting. 5 years in Santa Monica, PhD in English from UCLA. 5 years teaching at California Lutheran College. I guess I showed him anyway. Divorce, moved to the Bay Area. 5 years teaching at a wonderful private school in Ross, California, and remarried happily. And then this is an interesting one with helped me with my editing and my software expertise. 12 years as a writer and editor and manager at WordStar software company, which was a wonderful job. I had free reign to create documentation, videos. It was terrific for my inner nerd emerged. Finally, 1999, at age 62, I buy my first camera. And there it is, a little tiny camera, but it was digital, and I had no patience for waiting for my pictures to come back when they were filmed. So this was for me, the nerdy me. But soon I needed more of a zoom, so I bought this little camera. And then I realized this was a serious hobby, and so I bought a more expensive version with a longer zoom. And finally, I realized as I was getting into, I guess it was 2011 or so, that I was going to indulge myself and get a regular professional, almost professional grade camera, Canon, with a long zoom. And then, of course, I hit my late 60s and 70s, and I had a bad hip, and I had to carry this big camera around. And I decided to go mirrorless because the cameras were lighter. So I bought this as the camera I have now. And it is lighter, but the zoom is quite big. And unfortunately, I'm going to buy this lens, which is even bigger, which brings my current camera up to the size and weight of the Canon camera. I realized I forgot to do my laser pointer. So this was the Canon, and here is the bigger camera. It has more reach, but it is going to be heavy. So my routine away and at home. At home, I'm in my kayak a lot. There's a lot of lakes and creeks and rivers nearby. And sometimes I'm just standing in a refuge with other birders. Some of people watching might even recognize themselves from the back. And here I am just a couple weeks ago looking, we were going to look at a bald eagle nest. Now here in my traveling life, when I'm at home, I go out in the mornings for 4 or 5 hours, and then in the afternoons I edit my pictures. When I'm traveling, those are long days, very long days. And here I am in Africa, flying in an ultralight, God knows why, over the Victoria Falls. And then here is in Manitoba, Canada, on a dog sled ride. I'll be talking more about that. So how do I stay in shape? I have to be in shape in order to do all that. And so I bought, many, many years ago, I bought a tread desk. That's my secret weapon. And I can walk very, very slowly and edit my pictures at the same time and write email and do whatever I need to do on my computer. So if I don't hike very much during the day, if we're on an auto tour or something, I can actually walk. I do about 5 or 6 miles a day. So let's get to my most satisfying bird experience of all time. I was on the creek in my kayak. I was alone that day, which is pretty rare actually when I'm kayaking. And I was traveling up the creek, and these guys were going down the creek. These are young mergansers still in their family unit without the parents though. And they were going the other way. So on my return, I hear a great thrashing and splashing and just a terrible ruckus right near the boat ramp. I pulled over, and there was this poor little merganser caught in a fishing line, just wrapped entirely around his body, and in trying to escape, he had wrapped it around his beak. I called out, and this wonderful young man came over and ran out on the branch that he was caught on and cut him free. And then he pulled out a tiny scissors and snipped right between the upper and lower beak, and it popped off. And here's the result. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh. Oh. Off and away.
Oh, awesome. And now on to Antarctica, and I'll start my travels. Okay, I met a woman who had an equal passion for photography and wildlife, and she was very wealthy and kindly helped subsidize some of my trips. So first trip we took together was to the Antarctica, and we had to cross Drake's Passage, which is right up here. And we were going to see the emperor penguins on Snow Hill Island. It was so rough in Drake's Passage always that they had actually bed belts, so that when we passed it during the night, and I nearly fell out of bed in spite of the fact that I had the belt on. And how did I avoid motion sickness? I have no idea. It was pitching wildly. I had a scopolamine patch, but I think it was the excitement. We get to where they helicoptered us to the colony because they didn't want to bother the penguins, so we had to walk a couple of miles to get to the penguins. And they are glorious. I'm still moved when I see them. And contrary to popular belief, they don't mate for life, but they do mate for a season. And here, when they have to swim to the open water, they have to travel across land to get to the open water, and they leave their babies behind. And these are just a few adults, and the many, many babies is called a creche. It's like a daycare center. And so the parents, each parent, the mother and the father alternate, and each set of parents has one child. So you can see how many in the colony, of quite a big population. This is one parent, one child, one parent, one child, and there again. And the fathers, during the winter, when they have just the eggs, put them on the feet and then cover them with this belly flap. And the babies, the eggs and the young babies are kept warm on the ice. And here's little happy feet. This is a feeding session, and mom has or dad has regurgitated, and the baby feeds. It's quite a scene that's going on all over the place. And this is a typical family scene, the mother and the father and the baby. They take such good care of them. Truly amazing, and the colors. And I want to just say something about the air in the Antarctica. There's no pollution. It was crystal clear. I had never seen air like that. Never seen anything so sparkly clean. And here, just showing you how they travel across the snow, up and down little hills. They go like little toboggans on their bellies. And when they're on a flat surface, they have to use their flippers to move forward, and that you get this pattern on the snow. Now on to Manitoba, Churchill, Manitoba, which is way up here on the Hudson Bay. There are 1,000 people there and 900 polar bears waiting for the ice to form so that they can go out and hunt. They've been hibernating and now they're very hungry. They have young ones and they're waiting for the ice to form, and every year it takes longer. The mamas have to watch out for their babies and keep an eye open for the dads because the males want to mate and they don't want the babies in the way, and they can be ferocious. There's Dad. And here's an example, and you'll see it in coming photographs of play fighting among the young animals. And apparently it's something that helps with their adaptive skills. And if they are deprived of this play fighting, if they're isolated, they don't develop good skills and they have a difficult time reading the scene and whether it's dangerous and adapting their behavior. And I guess that's true of children of any kind. And here we have a napping scene, and you'll see a lot of that. But the polar bears are really endangered. The ice is forming later and later, and just recently there was a Smithsonian article in the magazine March 20 this month, says that I've got to uncover I have it written out here. They can fast for upward of 180 days. They can swim hundreds of miles without a break. But the consensus among scientists is that they won't be able to find new food sources once they can no longer hunt seals. And if the warming climate shrinks the ice at the projected rates, most polar bear populations will be too nutrient starved to reproduce by the end of the 21st century. So it's sad, and that's the fragility of life, and our lives are really intertwined with theirs. Now on to Africa. Just a point of interest that I found out yesterday. Did you know that flies can't land as easily on striped zebras as they can on uniformly colored horses? They lose their ability to know how far it is to land, and therefore they can't bite. And so zebras have a much better time of it. So probably we should get coats for all of our horses. But anyway, I went to Zambia and Botswana with my friend, and here are some of the pictures we took. This is probably my favorite of all time. There was a boat going by on the Zambezi River, and somebody stood up in the boat, changed the silhouette, and these babies got very frightened. They're young lions, and they started running, and they ran right toward us. I had about 50 pictures, and I picked this one because their feet are off the ground. They're coming into the light. The eyes are focused, and the ones in the background are looking at this way. It's just worked. A shot in a million. And here you see a playful scene, the father being very forbearing. This is a typical, lions lie around a lot and doze, and the babies still like to play. More nap time. This is a young lion also. And the elephants, the family unit is cherished by elephants. It's clear to see. You can tell they shepherd the little ones in between them always when they're walking. They're watchful of them. They run and get them out of trouble. It's quite fascinating to watch. And every now and then, Africa just presents a portrait for you, a painting, and this was one of them. The symmetry, the light, the color, the animals. And here's an example of more play fighting. Two kudus, they happened to be on a little hillside, so we were lower than they were, and it's always, a photographer is always looking to get an interesting perspective, not necessarily straight on, but from below or from the side, an angle that's interesting. And this one really worked because I could see the eyes of both animals. And here you have a scene where I didn't get a chance to get that special angle, but it still works because of the circle made by the animals. And they have another example of play fighting. The guide, whenever we saw impalas, would always point out that they're the prey of every animal in Africa that preys on other animals, and that they have a little McDonald's sign on their rear ends. I don't know, not a good joke from my point of view. And here's a yawning hippo. The hippos we weren't terribly afraid of them, but we probably should have been, because especially one time I was in a canoe being paddled by the guide, and one hippo went in on our right and another hippo went into the water on our left. And I said, what do we do now? And he said, I paddle like crazy, and he got us out of there. But they can be frightening. I think they canceled the rest of the canoeing for that month. Another big yawn, gorgeous lion, male. And another napping scene. Here we have the camouflage. It's the dappled light. I was so amazed that the guide could see this leopard in the tree. I was looking at the same scene for 10 minutes before I could even find it. And here we have a vervet monkey, a mom taking care of her little baby. It's a typical scene. And of course, the birds of Africa were gorgeous. I've concentrated on the animals, but these carmine bee eaters are just exquisite. We actually timed our visit to Africa so that we could see them. They're like treasures. Now on to the Pantanal. This is in South America. We flew to Sao Paulo, and then we got in a rickety old bus and went all the way down to the Pantanal, and then we got onto the Transpantanera, and the ride through the Transpantanera that runs the whole length of the Pantanal was like a smorgasbord for a wildlife photographer. It was just animals and birds and gorgeous scenery. It was like a feast. And of course, the jaguars were the main attraction. We would be in boats and watch the jaguars patrol the shore looking for capybaras, which I'll talk about in a minute, and looking for caiman, the alligator type of animal. And they would dive in and swim to a caiman and actually clamp their jaws on them. And those are big animals. It was quite a scene to watch. And also in the same area, there was giant otters. These are not your ordinary river otters or sea otters. These were 6 feet long, huge, double the size of our otters. Huge animals, and they had their little babies and their homes dug out of the shore. And the mama would come and look and watch, make sure everything was clear and let the babies out for a swim. And then there's the cuteness factor. These babies are amazing. And they can be preyed upon by the caiman. So the parents do watch over them carefully. And here, these are the capybaras. They're really a rodent. They're akin to a guinea pig. They're very plentiful all over, and similar to impalas, they are preyed upon by every other animal. and they have lots of babies, fortunately. I found them very, very fascinating. And then there were the hyacinth macaws, the comedians. They are very comical birds. They're raucous, very loud. They do gymnastics, as you can see. This one's hanging by its toes from the tree. Gorgeous birds, and unfortunately they're hunted and sold as pets in America. Not good. I think this is about $30,000 worth of birds there. And then there are the howler monkeys. This picture, there were howler monkeys in the Pantanal, but this picture was actually taken in Costa Rica. I was walking out across a bridge, and I came face to face with this little guy on his mama's back. I didn't see them in the greenery. And now on to Flathead Lake, Montana. We were lucky enough to have a little mobile home on a lake up there for many, many summers. And one summer, my neighbor in Montana, this is on Flathead Lake, called and said an osprey nest had fallen in a storm, and she had the chick and didn't know what to do with it. It was still alive, and she had it in a kennel. So we called around and tried to figure out what to do. She had a dock with a roof on it. So she put the kennel on the roof as she was instructed by one expert, and look what happened. The osprey parents brought branches and turned it into a nest, a messy nest. And she grew, and they continued to bring sticks and food, and they would warn her by screeching when a bald eagle or some dangerous thing would approach, and she would flatten as she would have in any nest to make herself invisible. And she grew, and she practiced flying. And one day I went by the dock in my kayak and said hi, and when I returned, there was no bird. This was after many, many weeks of watching her. And I was so terrified that she had fallen in or if something had taken her, but there she was trying to get up into the new nest where mom and dad were waiting for her, and she missed many times and finally made it. And a sad tale about the osprey nest near our house. Our next door neighbor decided he was going to set off commercial sized fireworks on the 4th of July. And on the 4th of July, the osprey babies are tiny. And they were frightened, obviously. They came back and all the babies were dead, and they never nested in that nest again. And so we had to travel further away to see any osprey. It was quite sad. I couldn't talk him out of it. He wanted to do it. But I found another nest not too far away by kayak, this time bald eagle nest. And I watched this for several summers in a row. It was a very successful nest. Here's Dad bringing fish to the babies. And as the babies get bigger, the fish get bigger. I waited hours for this one. They only bring in fish maybe once a day, and you never know exactly when. So I had to wait for quite some time and finally got the shot. The babies beg a lot and they cry a lot. But when they fledge and they start flying, they start exploring the shore, and there were all these beautiful homes along the shore. And one day this little guy was exploring and the sprinklers came on and he proceeded to play in them. I'm going to show you this little video. And then he flew toward me and I got this shot. But that video went viral and I actually made a few $100s on it because a media company came and said, we want to license it for you. So I said, sure. And I got something like 800,000 hits on it. Another little scene on that same island. One day I came and this mama deer and baby were on the island. And mom decided she was going to swim to shore and left baby behind. And baby didn't know what to do. Clearly was nonplussed. It took about 20 minutes before it finally made its way down that rock and fell in the water and swam to shore. Nice happy ending. Now on to Yellowstone, one of my favorite places in the last few years. This is a little grizzly cub that the ranger told us was a black bear cub. This mama and the baby were asleep along the road, set back a little bit, and there were like 100 cars lined up and the people standing right near her. And the ranger was sure it was a black bear, but it was not. That they ultimately, the mom woke up and they just sauntered off. Luckily, we were way too close. But we did come across some black bears, and you can see there's quite a difference in the face. If we go back and look at the nose, straight nose here, and this little slope nose here, that's indicating a grizzly. This baby climbed the tree as 30, 40 people watching, maybe 40 feet up. He lost his balance and fell to the ground, and mom was nearby, watched him bounce, and then he seemed okay. So she went back to feeding and he climbed the tree again. And here they are in a lovely scene. We can all identify with that one. And a single berry, a great big bear. Yosemite, a wonderful scene for bison and their babies. An elk wooing his mate in a snowstorm. I love this shot because I remember standing out in that snowstorm. And a coyote leaping in the snow, getting some prey. And here you can see this mountain goat. You see this little baby? This little baby had been born the day before we actually watched it. Watched the birth. And we came back the next day to see if it had survived, and it had, on a steep slope, and it was on the move. We watched it climb the hillside. Now, finally, we're back in Chico. I moved here with my wife because of her family, and my family is close by. I had no idea that it was the incredible wildlife area that it is. Yale Environment magazine says tens of millions of birds pass through just these two western corridors, and we are one of them. These are the GPS paths of birds that have been tagged. And one of my favorite birds, the Lawrence's goldfinches, migrate through California. 80% of all of them come through California, and we get to photograph them. And then, of course, there are the wonderful sandhill cranes. If you get up early enough in the morning and you go out there in late October, early November, I get there in the dark and I can actually hear them, and then they start flying at sunrise. I'll play you their distinctive sound. I hope you can hear it. If not, you can get the recording. And here's a family from our local area right near Lassen. I got up one morning very early in the dark and went up there just so I could get this picture of the whole family. Unfortunately, these babies didn't survive. There are so many mountain lions and bobcats and that they didn't make it. And then we have the snow geese, and we have our own, in Chico, we have our own Snow Goose Festival, which was unfortunately canceled this year. But the liftoff of these birds in mass is a sight and sound to behold. This is typical Chico. And we have a bald eagle nest not too far from here. It's actually about 25 minutes. So even though we no longer go to Montana very often, we have a local nest here. 2-3 years ago, we had a very heavy rainfall and a flooding of our Black Butte Lake, which made it just perfect for these western grebes to have their courting rituals and build their nests. And I did capture a video of this, which I'll play for you. That was a special time. That was very magical, as you can imagine. And here we have an endangered species, a spotted owlet. A friend works as in the Fish and Wildlife Department and took me on a hike through the forest with my cameras. I almost didn't make it. It's a good thing I exercise a lot, but we got to this place with this the mother owl had just fed the baby a little mouse, and I caught a little smile on the baby's face. When they look right at you, it's quite astonishing. Here's another scene of Mama bringing a little mouse, this time a red-shouldered hawk. And this time a tree swallow. I parked myself. I saw her going back and forth with these babies, so I got myself a good vantage point and just waited and got the shot. This is on Big Chico Creek. Early morning in the golden light with the golden reflection. 3 young wood ducks, all in a row, one staring at me. And this is on Paradise Lake, another body of water right near my house. And my kayak, this mama great blue heron had some large babies to take care of, and she's off to find food. Be horrendous to be feeding them. and they're very demanding. They grab her by the neck and head. This is a little killdeer. I just happened to be standing near the edge of the water, and this baby got frightened and ran under mom, tried to hide under her feathers. And a pied-billed grebe, dad feeding a baby some little underwater item. I love those little striped faces. A nice great horned owl family. Right now the owls are nesting around here. I've got my eye on 3 or 4 nests, hoping to get this. This one is occupied. The one this was from several years ago. I love this eye. There's also a rookery nearby where the great egrets and great blue herons and cormorants all nest in a series of trees. These little fluff balls were hidden for about an hour and a half, and I knew they would eventually perk up, and I got the shot. And here you have the western grebes. These are the ones who were dancing. They then have these nests and have these little babies, and she's probably still sitting on one more egg, and when they're all born, she can sail along on the water with the babies on her back. And here you have our sized otters, normal sized otters. These are young ones on Pine Creek, also right near me. All these creeks flow into the Sacramento River. Mom and Dad had gone fishing up the Sacramento River and left these babies playing on the dock. And early morning golden light again at our local Bidwell Park. And every now and then I can get a close-up that shows such detail. It's fascinating how they have this ability to sift through the water and sift out their morsels of food. As a northern shoveler. And one day I was on the creek and I was fiddling with my camera, and I looked up, and this guy was staring at me, a little very young bobcat. And that's a once in a lifetime experience on a creek. I was very, very excited that day. And here we have some bluet damselflies just doing their thing on a little stalk. And this is where I want to just recap what I've been trying to show is the beauty all around us and how fragile it all is, and this delicate balance of nature that we're disrupting is going to threaten all of us, not just the animals, but all of us. I just feel like this urgency to get out there and document it. And it does provide me with great peace. I'm going to read this poem. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night and at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. And that's it. That's it. Bye, everybody. I'll be here just to chat after this.
Bravo. Bravo.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful.
I hope you could hear the videos. I don't know if that came across.
Yes, they did. Very
Oh,
clearly.
good.
Yes,
Good.
yeah.
Yes, they were
Excellent.
Just beautiful.
incredible. Incredible. I have a pond. Maybe you'll come capture the life on my pond.
I'd love to.
Are you available?
Sure, anytime.
Okay.
Anyone have any
Doja, Doja.
Do you have a trip planned?
Pardon me?
Do you have another trip planned?
Yes, going back to Yellowstone and going up to Flathead Lake this summer. We bought a little trailer, so we're going to try it out. A long circle trip.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Do you
Terrific.
work, Joan? Do you work with a tripod at all? I mean, all of these, especially the close-ups, to sort of be able to hold something that heavy and not have camera shake, I find is just astonishing.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I hate tripods.
Yeah.
And I avoid them, but except when I'm watching something like a bald eagle nest and it's high up and you're standing there for hours, then I do use one. But then I miss those shots when I want to swing around. I like to have control.
Yeah.
So when I'm hiking, I don't use a tripod. When I'm stationary somewhere, I often do.
I'm just amazed at the clarity of your photos and your images.
Oh, thank you. I'm so obsessed. I do it every day, so I'm bound to get better at it.
Good. Where do you show them?
Oh, I have a website.
Yeah.
And I've got everything up there. And I also there's a little store here in town called Chico Paper Company. And they sell my photos mounted on bamboo, sort of an environmentally friendly backing for the pictures. And
How do we get to your website?
it's quite easy, and I will send out a link. It's www.joanrobbins.com. And
Okay.
it's just one B in Robbins.
Do you offer them for sale on the website?
I used to until I signed this contract with Chico Paper Company. Now I'm not supposed to, but if you contact me, we can figure something out.
Karen, I'm wondering if you could go to questions that are on the chat, please.
Sure. Let me take a look.
Trying
Let's
to see
see.
if there are any questions on the chat. Do people want to send in a question by chat?
I sent
Just-
in one.
Just make sure you click to everyone there, because you may not have sent it to everyone.
Oh, well, I do see a question from Judy Falk.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Which is, did the area around Chico suffer in the fires and other disturbances that California has endured?
Oh yes, the Paradise Fire was a tragedy here, and all of a sudden overnight Chico was doubled in population, and there were people camped out, and their stories were wildly horrible. You know, it was truly a tragedy. I drove up through the area and saw the devastation. Unbelievable, unbelievable. We're still trying to recover from it. There's still Paradise is still not back, and Chico's not back.
This isn't a mini, this isn't a maxi. I have a question. I was wondering when you mentioned the close-ups, how far at some of those you must have been quite far away.
I was, yeah. I have an extremely powerful zoom lens. And that's why I'm buying this new one that's supposed to come in a few weeks. to get clarity from a great distance requires a very good and expensive lens. And the professionals use lenses that cost $15,000. The one I'm buying is about half of that, but it's quite a lot. And that's, if you're serious about it, that's what you do. You long for the clarity of that distant shot, because you don't want to go close. You don't want to disturb them. That goes against everything in me to cause them stress. So you want to be distant and still get the shot.
Mhm. There was a question, Joan, about editing. Could you speak a little bit about editing?
Well, there's a lot of good software out there. And I use Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, which are, that software has been in the making for 20 years. It's very complex and very powerful. And I learn new things about it all the time. So I take a photo that in RAW, it's called RAW format, it's just data. And I take it into Lightroom and I fuss with it until it looks like I remember the scene and like I felt it at the time. So that means brightening up a little bit, sharpening a little bit, cropping the way I want it to be framed. It's a process. It takes, for some pictures it can take hours. For other pictures it's very simple because I accidentally found a bird in good light and I got the angle that I needed, but most often they don't cooperate. But there's a lot of editing. I do a couple of hours of editing every day, just about.
I have a question. It was in the chat. Our son-in-law is an avid birder. Is there any way to get a copy of this presentation? I would love to forward it to him because he would just go nuts over it.
Oh, well, in that case, we got to get it to him.
It is recorded. It sounds like it's being recorded.
It is recorded, but how does one pass it on?
Karen, we have to talk about that, but
Yeah.
I might be able to post it on my website.
Yeah, it'll be on the cloud
on
and
YouTube.
yeah, and however Joan wants to post it, we'll be in touch and we'll let you know.
Great, that would be wonderful. It was really spectacular.
Thanks so much.
I see like a little red button blinking on the upper left hand part of the screen that says recording. Now, is that meaning that that's recording on my computer?
No, it's recording on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but everybody's on there.
I have a question. I have a question in chat. We have sandhill cranes here in Dexter, Michigan, and the naturalist here said that the sandhill cranes lay 2 eggs, and when the second one hatches, the first bird kills the second one for food supply. So that might explain why one of them disappeared, but of course it doesn't explain why the other one disappeared.
I know. I've heard that also, and I researched it I Googled like crazy, but I think it's not always true. Sometimes they do raise 2, and it's not just something that happens every time. It does happen occasionally, I think.
With the beak sticking out of its.
I didn't want to think that happens every time.
Brother or sister. I don't remember that. No, you weren't with it. We were with kids.
Oh. Any more comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I actually am in Chico, and on Facebook very often, Joan will post these wonderful photos and videos, and she has a big following here of people whose day is made by watching these. And I've encouraged her to write a book, and I'm hoping she says she's pulling some things together now, but I hope everybody encourages her to do that.
Thanks,
Because
Elizabeth.
they're extraordinary.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Gonna
I just
shame
wanna-
me into it.
I wanted to say that Joan's inspired me. And in fact, I missed the first part of this video because there was a red-shouldered hawk in our backyard and I had to go out and take pictures. But Joan inspired me to get a camera very similar to hers, and it's really changed my life. And I appreciate you so much for that. And this was a wonderful presentation. So thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Christine. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, just another accolade. Not only are you an amazing photographer, but you're a wonderful friend, and you're such a you are so encouraging, and you care about people and your environment, and it's a blessing to know you. So thank you so much, Joan.
I'm going to interject a quote. I don't know how many of you might remember Paul Barstow, who was the theater professor in the theater and drama. And he had a favorite quote. When I was thinking last night about what I might say at the end of this, I suddenly remembered his quote, which is, "Keep in your minds some images of magnificence." And I thought this really applies here. This really, it's an absolutely gorgeous presentation. And I want to thank Joan. First of all, I think we should all clap for Karen, who in a moment of madness said, "Oh, I'd be willing to help you out." And that turned into, "Karen, can you run this thing for me? Because I have no idea how to do it." So a big, big thank you to Karen, and everybody clap. I also want to acknowledge that this was originally Meg's brilliant idea, and all credit goes to her for thinking of it, and then to Joan for agreeing and just enriching our lives so much.
Friend of Linda's.
Meg wanted me to say, first of all, we would love to hear back from any of all of you, what you thought of it, what your suggestions might be, whether you might have ideas for any future virtual minis, although maybe we won't have to be virtual so that much longer. But this is a great way to do it. And any volunteers to if you, Phyllis has just had 2 books of poetry, yes, Phyllis, published, and she said she'd be glad to do a reading, so we're going to try and set that up. Also we will look at Rhodes Scholar again to see whether there's any chance to come up with either another virtual mini, which they can do, or actually traveling someplace. So bless you all. Go 1958. Stay well, everybody, please. And we'll meet, as some of you will probably remember from your childhood, we'll meet again, the song.
Oh,
So,
thank you so
Yes.
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Karen,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
We love you.
Thanks to everyone.
Great job.
So Karen, I guess take us away.
Okay, so I think we have a chat that I'm going to save in case anyone wants to look back at it, and then I guess Susan and Meg will do a follow-up email with hopefully with a link that whatever Joan wants to, however Joan wants to share it with us. And it was such a pleasure to meet you all.
Karen, is Susie on this? Is your mom on the?
She was. Where is she? I'm scanning through to see you there. Oh, I just saw you.
Okay, good. I didn't see.
Is she there? I'll see if I can unmute her. She was in there somewhere. Such a big crowd. Oh, there she is. She's right there. Let's see. She can't unmute herself because I'm not there to help her find the button that disappears on your iPad. But there she is.
It's too bad we can't all see each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard one.
If you scroll, you should see a little arrow, at least on a desktop. There's a little arrow in the middle of the grid.
If you
and
go, is it to
scroll
gallery
through.
view?
It's, okay, you have to go to gallery
there it
view
is.
first. Yep. And then
There
the
it
arrows
is.
are on the side. There you go.
Oh, that's fun.
How many people? Well, Karen, thank you very much. You,
Thank you, Mom.
No,
I wouldn't have had this pleasure without you.
Well, this is a wonderful opportunity to use Zoom to our advantage. So we think it was inspired and appreciate all the effort put into this.
And Joan, your photographs are so awe-inspiring and such a
Yes.
beautiful reminder of, why it's so important to do whatever we can to preserve the environment. Thank you.
It's been a real treat, Joan. Thank you.
Oh, it's been a great treat for all of us. Really remarkable and wonderful.
I hear familiar voices, but I can't see the face to go with it.
Well,
I never got my picture up there, and I've got to figure out how to do that before we do this again. I see so many good friends, and I'm missing it.
Well, thank you. It was
Beautiful job.
If you'll hang on 1 minute, I will try and take pictures. I was trying to do something during the presentation, but when Joan had the screen, I wasn't able to scroll through fast enough. But if you'll hang on for a second, I will, if I can bring my camera up, I will do this, and then I'll try and post them on the listserv. So hang on, I've got.
Oh, good.
That's 1.
Okay.
This is 2. And 3. All right, ladies. I think I've got you all. They're not, most of them aren't labeled, but I will do my best to get them out there. Actually, with Karen's email list, I can.
Yeah.
We can just send
And
out.
not everybody is still on. There are people who had to leave, so
yeah,
we will be missing some people.
Yeah.
So
Carol Scoville and anybody who couldn't get their camera working, if you want to hang on after the rest of everybody leaves, I can go through it with you one more time and see if we can't just get you up to speed right now. If you have the
Karen
time.
and Susan, I want to thank you. You put up with me fiddling around trying to get on, and you succeeded, and I'm very grateful.
Good. It's good to see you. Yeah.
I'm so proud of us. I've been telling people that us old dogs can learn new tricks. And we have learned some things about Zoom and other things in our enforced retirement from the real world. So I'm proud of every one of us.
Well, thank God for Zoom during the last year. It's the only socialization we've had.
Yeah,
right.
and to see family.
Yeah.
And celebrate birthdays and things. Absolutely.
I remember early in the computer age when there was a lot of publicity about the fact that older people would never be able to cope.
Who's old?
Not that.
Well, I know some who can't cope, but
not very many, though.
No,
not
that's
Wellesley ladies.
That's
right. You are. That's good.
Susan, picture.
Okay.
And thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Thank
you
you.
all. It was
It
wonderful to see everybody, and we're so smart, up to date with the computer age, and lovely photographs.
Yeah. Susan.
So does this lure any of you hesitant people to join the listserv? We don't have Mary Edmonds here today.
No, she wasn't able to come.
She wasn't
we asked her if we could sign her up. She said, unfortunately, I can't.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Meg, it's your birthday tomorrow.
Whoops.
It's your birthday tomorrow.
No,
Happy
it's tomorrow.
Yep.
That's right. And Dolly Osgood's birthday tomorrow too.
Here I am.
And Brett's and Brett, Susan's husband, is having a birthday right now.
Yeah.
There he is. So happy birthday to Brett.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
And this is
Happy
Elaine
birthday.
Freeman, and I'm seeing my roomie down below, and she's looking great.
Very good.
I think we all are.
Everybody looks good. Are you kidding? We look terrific.
We're here. That's what matters.
We're here with the
Right.
rock stars.
Yes, we're definitely here.
You're right, Georgia Sue.
Yep. And I recognize that voice,
I recognized yours.
but I can't see you, Luella.
You can't?
No, not at all.
Well, do you have your picture on?
I don't know.
No,
Can you
I
see?
that's Georgia Sue's iPad.
I see.
Oh, well, how come the picture's not there, I wonder?
Linda.
Oh, there I come.
There you go.
there you are.
Excellent.
Well, if
And
we're gonna be
Carol, we see
talking
you
about
too.
still-
Carol, we can
still
see you.
looking good. I want to be there, not be a blank face.
Right.
So she got to the second.
Oh, this was great. I'm so
really
proud
was.
of you all for thinking of this.
Oh, wonderful to see everybody. Really wonderful.
Really is.
It
was
Judy,
a lot of work,
Risa,
so
I
thank
see
you.
you there too, and I'm glad to see
She hung
you.
up when I said I could see you.
Second from the
Oh, you
top.
did?
Here I
Well,
am.
Georgia Sue.
What?
Georgia Sue all of a sudden appeared in your place.
I don't know where I was before. I've been right here the whole time.
Yeah, well, it said your name.
But you heard me say I saw my roomie and you looked great. But you have to unmute. You have to unmute.
No, I think I was not unmuted, but I didn't have the camera on.
Okay, you
Right,
do look great.
right.
Have a baby side.
Same as ever. Yeah.
Hi, Linda Cohen. I see you there.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm just thinking that we should do this again. And as good as Joan's program was, which is absolutely fantastic, it was wonderful, that we could do it without a program and just go around and have a check-in with over 9.
The organizers, though. It's hard work for the organizers, isn't it, Karen?
If that we could.
No, it's actually really easy. It would be a little easier if we could use something like Evite. I don't know if people do that because that will automatically collect all the RSVPs, and then I think the legwork for Meg and Susan was collecting all the email addresses. So we can automate that so that nobody has to do that part of it if people
That would be
are willing
good.
to use
Yeah.
it. And then it's simple.
Then we need a facilitator.
Yes, but I think all of you Wellesley alums are qualified facilitators, so so there's no shortage there.
Control the conversation, so to speak.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd like that too, Linda. Thank you for saying that.
No.
Just conversation.
How was Texas in February? Georgia Sue, are you still in Texas?
Oh, yes, I'm still in Texas.
And how was February in Texas?
February was pretty bad in Texas. Fortunately, the power did not go off in my building, but this has been a real disaster. There are lots of people who still don't have water. It's bad.
Wow. Oh, really? Oh.
And it's all being blamed on California. I love it.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's being blamed on our own electrical grid system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm leaving. Bye, everyone. Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
everyone, all of
organizing,
you
you
for
girls.
coming and your response. We really are so grateful.
Say goodbye and hit it and leave the meeting.
And thank you, Karen, for doing all.
You're welcome. I'm going to leave the room open for anyone who wants to stay and chat with one another. I'll just shut off the recording so that your conversations are recorded.
That's a
So I'm
good
shutting
idea.
that off now.